Some communities that have been hard hit by tropical systems in the past just can't afford to see more rain, erosion, or wind damage.
Keeping people on the ground informed will be key to make sure they are prepared. And the Weather Channel and
odd hurricane season thus far, but we always tell people to get ready, and then it never fails when a storm is actually knocking on the door. People are rushing out and they're shocked that they can't find a generator or shocked that they can't find batteries. And I'm like, every year we get through this. Not this year though, thankfully.
Well, and so we'll see how this one plays out. We're going to continue tracking Fiona. We're going to talk about some of our other top weather stories, though, including the second summer heat that's happening for so many this weekend.
That's right. We've got potential record highs and record warm lows. All of those red dots are indicative of that, especially centered across the middle portions of the country.
There's even a few in the west somehow, but for the most part, we've got a change in pattern in the west. This is a middle and eastern half of the country heat wave. Thankfully, we get a break on the west coast.
Oh yeah, you see the heat returning, and it's almost worse now where we're warming back up because you got that nice little taste of fall.
Yes.
You were like, oh, this is wonderful, and now it's 94 degrees in Oklahoma City.
Yes,
tomorrow.
And record breaking. We're going back to the 90s, as you mentioned, and this is late for a lot of cities hitting it, beyond where you typically would see that last 90 of the season.
Yeah, we're talking about records on Sunday, so this is reaching into your weekend as well. In Delaware, in D.C., so the Northeast is heating back up again after you guys have had a nice cool down. And we've got some really old records that are possibly going to be broken.
Yep, second summer.
Well, as Fiona tracks up on that, thanks for hanging out with us here on America's Morning Headquarters. We're going to get you through the mid-morning hours and look ahead to your weekend.
Yeah, the Weather Channel here for you to help you plan all of your big events ahead. A number of top stories today, but Fiona probably leading the list of what most are talking about.
It feels like it.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like even...
Those are other top stories.
Oh, yeah, we've got a lot to talk about. A lot of us had a nice little taste of fall, and that is being snatched away. A tropical storm. So at times, sometimes I think that maybe we look at it and say, oh, it's a tropical storm. We're not quite as worried. But those impacts can still be very big, especially when you're talking about the islands, about mountainous regions. So we're going to touch on that. Here's what we're expecting with Fiona. Those tropical storm conditions reaching parts of the Leeward Islands this evening into tonight. Fiona's going to cross over the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico as we move through the weekend, impacting much of the greater Antilles. Actually, the heavy rainfall, that is going to be one of the problems. It could produce some flash flooding. Certainly with the mountainous terrain that we have, the gravity pulls that rain down. Could also make some landslides, mudslides as well across Puerto Rico. So you might not know this, but Puerto Rico is a mountainous island. We've got two main peaks that we're looking at here, over 4,000 feet, and you kind of have that gradual decline as you go out toward the coastal areas. But what also happens in some of the coastal areas is there in portions of the main parts of San Juan, they flood very easily. So the mountains disrupt the structure sometimes and weaken the storm, but the storms can cross over those mountains. In terms of winds, we're not looking at anything that's too mind-blowing right now, but we will continue to see those winds pick up as we move through the day today. Most of the models are in agreement at keeping this at tropical storm force, but you know what, the tropical storm force winds can do some damage, but for most of these regions, I would say, especially Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, one of the big impacts is going to be the rain that's coming from this system. Those tropical storm force winds arriving as we move through later today, through the weekend, across the greater Antilles into early next week as that system crosses Hispaniola. This is the thing with the tropical storm force winds. If you have any weak trees, if you have anything out that's loose, that can cause you those issues. Here's a European model wind forecast. Of course, the focal point of the winds here in the center area, moving across Puerto Rico, approaching the Dominican Republic as we move into the early part of the weekend. Now, again, this is European model forecast. We've got a couple different model solutions. The European model bringing more rain to eastern portions of the Dominican Republic. The American model not quite as bullish. So that's something we're going to keep an eye on. We want to check in now with our own Mike side.
Is that this will remain pretty far east of the Florida coastline, kind of like what we thought yesterday. But as you mentioned, nothing is completely off the table, so pay attention.
Right. It's too early to give a final answer on this forecast.
Yeah.
So expect changes.
Exactly.
But we can talk about it.
We can talk about it, and we can have you prepared for any of the different situations, and then you can know why it's happening.
Yeah.
The science behind it.
You brought up a good point that, so many people, as soon as the tropical system happens anywhere in the Atlantic, in Florida, they wonder if it's coming for them.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I can say range that we look at, and that's what we were just seeing. Most of them have this system making that sharp turn off to the north, but not all of them.
Right, right. And when you look at the ensembles, of course, you get many more options. So we can talk about the steering flow in place. We can also use some rules of thumb. And this is one, you may not have heard about this because it's been a while since we talked about it, but it's something called a bear's box. And this is a rule to know that, there's always changing information coming in, new data that goes into what's actually assessing what's happening right now. Because even that information, minute by minute changes as we get new data in from the hurricane hunters.
There's a lot to sort of pay attention to, so don't turn our eyes away from it.
Right, exactly.
Do some deep cleaning, so maybe that's what you can do this weekend.
I've seen your Instagram stories, and you have been busy, and they look busy.
Well, it's like I need to stay in and do some deep cleaning.
You need an off weekend.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, we'll give you that chance here in North Platte, Nebraska. Starting tonight, we got some thunderstorms coming in. Look at our days. I mean, these are more like July days.
Yeah, it is warm out there. Now, for today, what's going to happen is as you have that warmth, as you have that moisture moving in, you've got that daytime destabilization. So most of the risk for these storms is going to be afternoon into the evening in this area.
Yeah, and it may continue into the overnight. So we're watching. This is Friday evening, 6, 7 o'clock. You see how these all press east. Thunderstorms from Valentine to North Platte and Nebraska. And then there's more to the north as well underneath the low pressure.
Yeah, we've got those storms are just kind of rolling from the higher elevation to the lower elevation in that area. Maybe an isolated tornado, wind and hail possible. And then looking to tomorrow, as all of this pushes eastward, this is going to be more of a wind and hail threat for this region.
All right, so we're watching Iowa, Des Moines, down to maybe even Kansas City, where we've got a couple of hot days ahead. So yes, feels a bit like summer outside, and you get all the summer kind of weather, including those thunderstorms by late afternoon and evening.
I feel like you almost expect it when you have one of those afternoons. Yeah. It's so hot and humid. You're like, oh, I know the storms are probably coming. You can see this. That's how you're starting off your Saturday morning. If you have some grocery shopping to do, if you have outdoor activities you need to get done this weekend, you're going to have to plan around these storms.
You see how things really develop late into the evening, and then even somewhat continuing to the overnight. At this point, we'll have to see if a cluster of storms develops, and maybe that could be a heavy rainfall threat.
Yeah, this is what Saturday looks like around Des Moines. Along that I-80 corridor, you're going to have some visibility reducing rain that's sticking around into your lunch hour. Really, for a place like Des Moines, it's not going to be raining constantly all day, but you're having enough rounds of rain and storm action that you are going to have to plan around it.
And it's possible the storms are severe. So, rainy day is one thing, but when you've got storms, it may mean that you need to seek shelters another. So make sure that you're ready on Sunday. We've got possible severe weather watching northwestern Illinois into southeastern Iowa.
Yeah, that's so true. The rain, you can kind of deal with it, but when you're talking about a damaging storm, you want to not be out and about in that. Well, things are cloudy and calm in Puerto Rico, exactly where you are in relation to the storm. But regardless, it's wind, it's rain, it's a possibility of flooding. It's a problem.
Yes, it is. And we're going to talk more about it with our hurricane expert, Dr. Greg Postel. Greg, been watching with Hurricane Hunter data coming in. That's the newest information we're getting now. But we have a new advisory coming out within about less than a half hour. So. All right, well, let's show you what we know right now, because, again, power outages, as you just heard, are definitely going to be a concern. Tropical storm conditions will reach parts of the Leeward Islands by tonight. We're watching some of the first impacts on Antigua and Barbuda, Guadalupe, even Dominica could see some impacts.
The VC Bird Airport closing at 5 p.m. today, not opening until tomorrow, so waiting the storm out there.
In Antigua.
Yeah, as Fiona pushes through the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico this weekend, of course, Hispaniola is going to be feeling the impacts as well.
All right, so we're worried about rainfall. We're worried about, even with not a lot of wind, some wind in Puerto Rico could be impacting the power grid there.
Here's where we have our tropical storm watches and tropical storm warnings shaded in the red. The tropical storm warnings, Anguilla, Antigua, and Barbuda. And then, of course, this tropical storm watch will be upgraded as time moves on and Fiona gets closer for places like Puerto Rico.
Yeah, it's just a function of time, really, when it comes to us here in Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Not only is the wind a concern, but also the rain, and the rain is probably the biggest. There's a flood watch in effect from this evening through Monday night at least, with heavy rain expected to come in over the weekend.
Yeah, they've already had a really wet September there across Puerto Rico, so adding even more rain onto it's going to create problems.
The models have been a little different in terms of rainfall, mainly because of track, and that's something that becomes more of a nowcast. I mean, it's still a couple hundred miles to the east of the Leeward Islands, so we need to see what exact track does it take. The Euro brings some of the heaviest rain south side of Puerto Rico and then eastern side of the DR.
Now, what I want to point out to you is both of these models are having much of the same areas with quite a bit of rain. The American model has a bit more rain for the south side of Puerto Rico right now, and a smaller bullseye for the eastern portions of the DR, but it's still there.
Yeah.
So you still want to prepare for these copious amounts of rain.
That's a great point. The order of magnitude of rainfall, potential up to 8 to 12 inches, right? So that potential is there with the amount of moisture we have. And the movement, the speed matters too. If it's really slow moving, it will bring more rainfall.
Of course, the wind's not a big story right now, but they will begin to pick up those tropical storm force winds moving through the Leeward Islands later today and then progressing through the greater Antilles as we move through the weekend and into early next week.
All right, so this is all weekend we are dealing with this here. And then it's really not until early next week that we start to get beyond here the lesser and then the greater Antilles. Let's look at that wind forecast. This will help us track a bit some of the impacts. As we watch this on the European model, I mean, winds, tropical storm force, 50, 60 miles per hour, watching that move right over the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico as we look at the timing Saturday into Sunday.
And as we quite often see with these tropical systems, we see the kind of center point of the strongest winds, but you can get some storms that pack a punch in the outer squally bands of that as well. So we're going to be dealing with this for a while.
And waves will be up as well. Rip current risk high pretty much in all of these northern islands. TWC Espanol, all of the past 7 years prior, we've had something in May.
Yeah, and you know, I will say that even if you don't live along the coast, we saw it last season that those tropical systems get picked up and lifted across the country and they can still cause major issues.
Exactly, yes. So thank you guys for telling our story. Let's look at some of the other big stories that we're following for you too outside of the tropics. We've got rain coming into the west coast over the weekend. We've got a big storm in Alaska, and we've got record heat across a lot of the nation.
Yeah, that's all of these little dots are indicative of the possibility for record warm highs and record warm morning lows. That's through Tuesday. For today, I feel bad for everyone who got a little taste of fall and really loved it, and then this is what they're looking at for temperature.
Don't feel bad for me. I'm loving this.
I know, me too. Me too. Jen and I are in agreement on that. A good hefty moist dew point and a nice warm temperature. We're fine with it.
Yes. Now this might be a little too much though for some, like 94 in Oklahoma City. We're past our typical 90s.
85 in Cincinnati, 89 in Jackson, but of course you factor in some of that humidity we're getting and it's going to feel warmer than that, but it's stretching all the way up through the northeast as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're flirting with 90. DC, 88 degrees. The record is 91. All of these are within a few degrees of the record. We may not be smashing records and breaking them by a lot, but it gives you, at least some perspective on this is not our typical temperatures.
I think it's crazy to point out too that, the record in Philly, the 90 and 1891, these are some very old records that we're getting close to. So this heat isn't something we see often. Here's why. It's our bubble of warmth.
Under the ridge.
Under the ridge.
We're going under the ridge, and that's going to make those temperatures heat up all across the midsection of the country this weekend, but then by early next week, that's when it really builds across the eastern half of the nation.
Yeah, you're going to see that spreading by Monday. Look at these oh gosh, I'm sweating just talking about it. Topeka, Kansas, your forecast is 99, the old record 97. So we're not just talking about like slightly warmer temperatures. We're talking about real heat for this region.
And it's going to last. We've got a number of days. I mean, it starts to heat up this weekend, continues, and actually gets worse into next week. The record heat continues.
Yeah, it does. Rainy, stormy afternoon, evening, especially for the West Coast. Naples looking gorgeous this morning. Got some people out there on the pier voluntarily starting their morning this early. And I'm not sure I understand that. But anyways, Naples, you're sitting at 74. Your dew point is very close to that. You're right around where you should be for rainfall so far this season. But we're going to add to that as once again today, that sea breeze is going to pin most of that rain and storm action to the west coast. So right now we've got a few little showers sprinkled around here or there. You can see some of those showers moving on shore through that 95 corridor, a bit of rain action as you look out through the Gulf. These are the dew points that I was talking about. We just saw it there. Naples sitting at 74 degrees, but the dew point at 72. So you're walking out and you're just instantly feeling like very sweaty. It's very, very muggy out there. Highs today going to be in the mid 90s in Tampa, lower 90s in Fort Myers, a place like Melbourne, upper 80s for you, but you've got to factor in the humidity. So it's going to feel more like the triple digits for most of Florida. Taking a look at our future radar, you can see the forecast here. Will we have rain and storms moving on shore for the East Coast? Yes, we will. Those will be around as you're getting off work, but I want you to keep a close eye around Tampa Bay, down through Fort Myers, even Naples getting in on this. Watch how long these storms stick around. These aren't your typical afternoon pop-up storms that just move on. These are sticking around for hours. So some of that rain is going to add up, especially with the rain we saw yesterday. Maybe a little ponding on the roadways, a little localized flooding. By tomorrow, you can see we've got scattered storms in the forecast. It's the rainy season. This is what you expect across Florida. And heading into Friday, kicking off your holiday weekend, you'll notice again, it's much of the same story. It's not going to be a complete washout, but you will have to plan your day around that chance for storms across the Sunshine State. It's not just here that we've got the chance for storm heavy rain with that. So I've been transported here by our virtual view to Norfolk, Virginia, where it's sunny and warm during the day. We're talking 90s. So I'd go so far as to say sunny and hot, but the skies will turn darker as the daytime heating helps fire up storms. Looking a little bit more like this. Moving into the area later in the day, the storms are going to bring heavy rain, strong wind gusts, maybe even some hail. So let's time it all out for you so you can plan out your Thursday. Maybe you're trying to pick up some groceries before the weekend or whatever you might want to do. You'll have most of the day to get that done. This is what it looks like right now. As you saw in our virtual view, just fine to start off your morning. It's later in the day when we'll start to see these storms blasting in from the northeast, moving toward, or from the northwest, moving toward the coast. So here it is, 8 p.m. Richmond. You're seeing some of those storms first. Remember, some of those could be a bit feisty. We don't see this filling in Norfolk until we get into the overnight hours for the most part. And then that clears out pretty quickly by your Friday morning. Could have some lingering wetness on the roads just because it will still be showering overnight, but still not bad. Starting out your morning here, you can see D.C. and Leesburg quiet. As we move through your Thursday, the Capitol Beltway just fine for your morning commute. Heading into your lunch hour, also fine. But right as you're getting ready to get off of work, you can see those storms blasting in. Heavy rain moving through Manassas as well. And then we've got a really good expanse of showers and storms for Baltimore. The heavy rain is going to create some ponding, so plan on that afternoon commute to be a little bit slower. And then also plan on that sticking around into your evening as well. To Philly now, where it's quiet currently, but looking west toward Reading, you see what's heading your way. A quick look at the timing on that. Reading, you've already had some of those showers moving through. We're going to see these showers and storms building into Philly over the next several hours. I think this model's a little late on some of those showers and storms, but Philly, just have that umbrella ready. That's the moral of the story. Anytime you've got storms like this in the forecast, Jim, you just want to make sure the umbrella is in the car and then it goes inside with you. Climate experts say a storm like Ida would have been exceptional 50 years ago, but we have to start thinking about that as the new normal. A warmer atmosphere holds more moisture, and a hurricane can spread flooding rains 1,000 miles from the point of landfall, just like Ida did when it traveled from Louisiana to the northeast last summer. And Jim, you know, I remember watching that and just watching the path and then seeing all the destruction is so far away from landfall. It's almost season simply for the West because there needs to be so much more focus on that terrible situation out there. I know we're focusing on the mega drought. We've got a lot going on here at the Weather Channel talking about it, but it's a terribly dangerous, terrible situation. You just hate to see it. Let's talk about your flying today. There were tons of flights canceled and delayed yesterday. You can see we've got lots of green bubbles on the map, but that is not indicative of no delays or no cancellations today because we do again have the chance for some strong storms for some of those major airport hubs. Philly, you could have some delays thanks to the weather. DC, again, especially for the second portion of the day. Nashville, you're going to have some storms moving through, so that's going to bring you the chance for some of those storms. So I would say just check the flight. I mean, I don't know who doesn't check the flight when they go to the airport or before they go to the airport at this point. But, you know, you always want to do that, especially if you were flying yesterday. Look at some of these numbers. More than 4,800 flights in Dallas delayed. So I am probably one of the only people in the world who's like, I kind of don't mind if my flight's a little delayed. I actually like hanging out at the airport, but I say a little delayed. I love people watching at the airport.
Do you have like a Sky Club pass?
Well, sometimes I do sit in the Sky Club, okay. But then also, you know, there's nothing a margarita can't fix at the airport. Quick look at your travel forecast. Some storms across the Mid-Atlantic. You might want to give yourself a little extra drive time there because the roads are going to be wet. I mean, it's the happiest place on earth. pop some popcorn, hang out with us here on the Weather Channel. And of course, not only that, we've got storms to continue talking about and a tropical system we'll be watching this weekend, Steph. So a couple different things that...
1 second. If I left it over here or if I totally forgot to bring it with me, I was going to do my demonstration.
Steph has a demonstration for you all.
I forgot my piece of paper. We'll have to do it later on another show.
Yeah. We're going to have to get the speedometer for her breath, the paper for her...
Well, the point of the paper was to explain how these winds... The Colorado River system is low on water thanks to 2 decades of a drought in the West. The water is receding rapidly in Lake Mead, revealing all sorts of secrets that were previously covered by water.
Yeah, this has been a hot topic. Sunken boats.
The discovery was much more sinister. A body was found in a barrel in Lake Mead. Investigators say the victim was a man who was shot before being stuffed in the barrel. Based on the decay of the barrel, they believe that it was dumped sometime in the 1980s. A week later, more human remains were found, and they expect more, they say.
Yeah, the story just absolutely crazy. Now, of course, the story sent theories flying. Could this have the mob and its connection to nearby Las Vegas, maybe? An expert with ties to the inner workings of organized crime weighs in. Oscar, I don't believe you. He's continuing his defenses.
I'm scared to even talk about the mob, so I don't want to get involved. You can, but I bet you that man has some stories.
Oh, he has secrets for sure. Yeah, so it's easier to transport them all the way from Vegas.
Tell the viewers, I don't want to be involved in this. I don't want to be involved.
So viewers, just talk it out with me. You think it's easier to take them all the way from Vegas to like Phoenix, or where else did he say? LA?
I'm too scared. I'm not getting involved in this, seriously.
I don't know, Oscar. I don't know if I believe it, but I will say there was a cameo of Casino in there. That's top 3 of my favorite movies. So maybe I'm invested in this.
Are you finished? I don't want to talk
Are you
any of
finished?
this. I'm terrified. I don't want to talk about any of this kind of stuff. Let's have a look at Abrams.
And I'm meteorologist Felicia Combs.
Well, we want to talk about the farming communities all across California. They are working really hard to stay afloat, with the state's agricultural industry taking a $1.1 billion hit last year. A lot of that has to do with the water.
Yeah, that's right. Meteorologist Jim Cantori explains what one district is doing to keep its community together in our 3-part series exploring California.
If you found a swarm of bees near your home or your property, what would you do? Well, we don't want you to reach for the insect spray or call pest control.
Yeah, that's right. Bees play a huge role in growing the food that we eat.
Yeah.
So to protect them, you have to call the expert. So we got to bring in Dermot Jones. He's the owner of Jones Family Bee Removal. Dermot, thanks so much for taking some time out and talking to us. This is an important topic, and we need to know why it's so important to remove.
So happy to be streaming.
Tune in. Lots of people wondering when we were going to be streaming, and now we are.
Ask and you shall receive.
Ask and you shall receive this awesome story.
Nobody asked.
Too.
Nobody asked for this story.
You're getting it anyway. It's because you're here. Okay, so you've heard of recycling, right? Well, how about pea cycling? That's right. You heard it right. It's a real thing.
So it turns out that urine can be used for something, and it's for fertilizing peonies.
This frontal system just doesn't want to leave us alone. We've had multiple days of severe weather coming out of this same frontal system, and you see where we have our main risks today. Torcons of 2 to 3 across portions of the Northeast. You can see certainly northwestern portions of Maine included in that. Now, what a 2 to 3 torcon means for you is an isolated risk for a tornado. Any of these severe thunderstorms that get going could produce a tornado. It's not out of the question, but it's also not super likely either. Just be prepared for that risk of some really strong storms. In Caribou, your temperatures are going to make it into the lower 70s, but those hit or miss storms are around pretty much all day. To D.C., where you might be welcoming some of the precipitation to get rid of some of that sweltering heat. Bad news for you guys is that the storms aren't moving in until later this afternoon, so you're not getting any relief early afternoon from this rain. That moves through as we head into your evening, and then another round overnight tonight into early Monday morning. So if you're trying to plan out your Sunday, the best bet is to get things done early on if you want it to be dry, but do know your clothes are probably still going to end up wet from the sweat because it's hot out there. Philly, you've got those storms moving in as we head through the evening. Again, another place that's been very hot. Some rain showers lingering after sunset as we head into the 11 o'clock hour there in Philly. And to Scranton, where you can see Binghamton, you're first getting into those showers. Scranton, you're still dry by like, say, 4 o'clock, but then you have those waves of rain and storms moving through. Any of these could be a little bit on the feisty side. landslide, maybe some damaging winds, maybe a little bit of hail with them as well. Albany, you're going to make it to the lower 90s before those storms finally move in and cool you down a little bit. Even with the rain and stuff, though, you only fall into the lower 70s. I think this is the most fantastic Sunday to maybe hang out by your pool a little bit in Albany, and then right as you're getting really tired, you go inside, you prep for your Monday, and then it'll be raining as you're getting ready for bed if you go to bed at like 8:30 like me. So it'll be the perfect Sunday to prepare for your Monday. Let's take a look at Burlington very quick, where we have that risk for some of those stronger storms. You can see that rolling in this afternoon. Again, all of this associated with this frontal boundary that's eventually going to clear out and leave some nicer weather behind. But first, we got to deal with all of this stuff, Paul.
He was able to make really valid and important assessments, without all the information already being examined.
And now I think after that tornado, Joplin is kind of synonymous with tornadoes. So I know we're going to talk a little bit about kind of the statistics of EF5s. It's not something that we see a ton, thank goodness.
There's 22nd of May. Meteorologist Paul Goodlow and Felicia Combs, along with our storm specialist, Dr. Greg Postel, here.
That's right. We're all here. Record heat also here. It's going to put the sizzle on the I-95 corridor today. Several of the big cities in the megalopolis could set records.
Yeah, and the heat may even trigger some severe thunderstorms. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Parts of the Northeast, even in places as far north as Caribou, Maine. It's big weather today.
All right, the heat is on, though. That's one of our big stories. We're tracking up and down the I-95 corridor right now.
It certainly is. So it's also my birthday. I'm just saying. If you're looking for something to get you into the out there this season, I am, or anytime really, you might do bird watching.
Yeah, one bird watching group is hoping to encourage diversity and create more black and brown birders. Some with heavy rain causing flash flooding is going to be, well, something we're going to deal with much of this week across the Gulf Coast.
Yeah, it's going to be a multi-day threat of that. We've just got so much moisture, so much instability that it's all coming together to bring us that risk for storms for multiple days for cities like Dallas. Now, I'll tell you, you got to pick one during the summer, Dallas. Either you're
looking at a tinderbox everywhere in the West.
Yeah, we were hoping that this winter would provide some much-needed rain and snow for the West based on the anticipation of La Nina, right? That condition globally affects the jet stream and oftentimes brings cooler and wetter conditions in the West. We didn't really sort of, take advantage of that.
And, there are such larger implications. We've seen it, the barrel and like Meade, right, was a big story and things like that. But there are such larger implications of this drought, and the fires are one of them. And the fact that we're still so far away from monsoon season and it is this dry. Let's take a closer look at the drought monitor now. I know we have.
By the way, this doesn't mean that there is no climate change or global warming just because we have snow out of season or late season. We still have a wild climate.
Yeah, that's kind of the indication of climate change, that more weather extremes. So if one person tweets me, oh, where's your global warming now? I'm like, oh my God, see this article I've shared 700 times.
And they go, bye, Felicia. We're going to say
no one
hello.
Bye, Felicia.
No one's ever said that. Welcome back to Weekend Recharge on this 22nd day of May. Meteorologist Paul Goodlow, Felicia Combs, and Dr. Greg Postel in the house.
We're all here. Record heat is putting the sizzle on the I-95 corridor today, though several of the big cities in the megalopolis could set records.
Yeah, and that record heat probably is fuel for big thunderstorms later on today. We've got an outlook that extends not just to places like Pennsylvania, New York State, southern New England, but all the way up near the Canadian border. Caribou, Maine is at risk for seeing severe weather today.
Wow, all thanks to this heat.
Yeah.
And, for some people, these storms are coming later in the day, so the heat is on and popping throughout the rest of the day.
Yeah, so let's talk about it because that forecast is still staying steamy. We got a heat advisory here, and that is lasting through today for many of these areas until we can get that frontal boundary through to bring in some cooler air. So here we go. This is where we've got the heat advisories for today. We've got that for Hartford, Poughkeepsie, down through Philly as well, and for good reason. Those temperatures are still steamy out there, guys. We are 13 degrees warmer in NYC than we were yesterday morning at this time, 11 degrees warmer in Caribou, but you can see the difference that the front is making. Behind that frontal boundary, Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, both cooler than they were yesterday morning at this time, so you're probably enjoying that. Take a look at the forecast high temperatures we've got for places like Cincinnati, Nashville, Pittsburgh. We're talking 60s and 70s, whereas we've still got 80s and 90s as you look closer to that eastern seaboard. 87 in New York, 89 in Norfolk, smoke. The dew points, though, that's what makes heat index is what it feels like when you factor in that humidity. So I'd say that's kind of enough that you don't want to deal with it. The record heat possible for today, a place like Del Rio, your forecast is 108 degrees. That would break that record of 106 back in 1998. You can see we could tie the record in Houston, as Paul was just talking about, at 94. And San Antonio, the forecast for you, 102. That would also well beat the 100 degrees set back in 1998, where a lot of those records were set. By tomorrow, you can see some of the temperatures that we have, still quite a few triple digits coming up on the map across Texas. 88 in Jackson and New Orleans. And guys, this isn't just like, dry heat. This is heat with humidity. As soon as you're walking outside, you're feeling sweaty and sticky, and that's exactly what we're dealing with. In San Antonio, it's going to feel well into the triple digits, which is right in that danger zone as we move through the afternoon. So make sure you're drinking plenty of fluids, you're taking some breaks, you're finding shade, because it is going to feel like 105 in the shade. When you're out in the sun, it's going to feel even hotter than that. Tomorrow, some of the records that are in danger, really not quite as many as, say, today, but you can see getting very close to the old record here in Del Rio. Once again, 102 is the forecast. 103 would tie that old record. So, Paul, there are going to be a lot of scorching cars out there.
Morning, I'm Paul Goodlow.
Yes, he is, and I'm Felicia Combs. Happy Derby Day. Yeah, shout out Stephanie Abrams for letting me borrow a fascinator.
Fascinating.
I need my mint julep. Where's my mint julep?
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Let me make sure it's okay.
Where's mine? I didn't ask where yours was. So
Oh,
where's
yes.
mine?
Lots of mint in that one.
Oh, you see how that goes, Paul. Always looking out for himself. No, I'm kidding. Mine's under the table, too. Okay, we'll take a look at this. Quite the beating. Let's talk about where we do have that risk for severe storms today. That is going to be from southern portions of central Florida down through Lako, all the way down into Alligator Alley. What's happening is a frontal boundary is sinking southward, so it's not going to be those scattered storms that you see everywhere during your rainy season. This is more of a linear type of frontal system, type of storm chance that we're going to see. So Sebring, you've got the sun shining there. Meanwhile, Sarasota, same thing for you, but we've got these storms that are edging closer toward North Lako. We've got some storms crossing that 95 corridor at this point as well. West Palm Beach, you've remained quiet so far. That's going to change once these storms finally push southward. Fort Myers, storms blasting through. Talking about Jack, again, some valuable little tidbits there. I love a good road trip. I do.
It depends on who you're road tripping with. Some, like if you're stuck with your family for days upon days. But,
It's great, right? It is Mother's Day weekend.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, that's his favorite.
How wonderful. But bottom line is, it's, I can see this in the future of people doing like these modifying shows of modifying cars into electric vehicles.
Yeah, I could totally see that too. Of course, as mentioned, it's Mother's Day weekend. We'll have all those forecasts coming
I've
up.
tried them raw, I've tried and it's just not for me, dog.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm shocked by that.
I've had fried oysters, but you fry anything.
Yeah, you fry anything, and it's you're eating a piece of chicken.
The
You're eating a
raw
chicken nugget.
oysters.
Oh, I'm into it. That's like a family tradition. We would have oyster stew for Christmas morning, which was like a really weird thing to have for breakfast at any point, but it's like a Christmas tradition.
Okay.
I know. I guess you're not invited
I'm
to
not
Christmas.
invited to the Combs Christmas morning. I'll come over Christmas dinner, but I'll...
That's going to be raw oysters.
Raw
No, I'm
oysters.
kidding.
But yeah, that's still a no. No
Okay.
lab, no ocean.
Well,
just
I guess
no
I've got to
oysters.
send Paul his Christmas present back. I ordered some lab oysters for you in advance.
Just make sure there's a gift receipt.
It's Saturday morning, and welcome to AMHQ Weekend. I'm meteorologist Kelly Cass.
And I'm meteorologist Felicia Combs in for Reynolds Wolf this morning. A stormy start to the weekend from the plains to the northeast down to the south.
But first,
Rated across a good portion of Florida. In fact, you can tell just by taking a quick look at the 24-hour rainfall totals here across the Big Bend area of Florida. Florida's Nature Coast has just seen too much rain already. We're talking 5 to 8 inches and then isolated amounts up to 12 inches just in the past 24 hours. You can see the entire state, though, has seen its fair share of rain. We do have a flood watch in effect through this morning for that Big Bend area, including Cedar Key. But Tampa, that's stretching down into you as well. Now, that is set to expire, but we're still seeing that rain fall. So the flooding concern is going to be something, especially on the saturated ground. Look at all of this abundant moisture that is hanging out there near that Big Bend of Florida. So not only have we already seen quite a bit of rain, but that rain is continuing to fall. Look, and this isn't light
rain either. This is heavy rain where you're seeing these oranges move in near Cedar Key, and you can kind of see the general direction. This is moving off the warm waters of the Gulf and continuing to make its way onshore, and that's encompassing that whole area of Florida there. So we're likely going to see some especially localized flooding. This rain not set to stop either. You just keep seeing this rain coming over and over again, and that tends to be the problem. So we've got that low pressure system in the Gulf, and that is really helping to aid in the development of this rain, and it's sticking around. You can see it doesn't stop. We just have waves and waves of rain with this abundant Gulf moisture. So the focus of most of the rain on that west coast of Florida, but also the summer storms scattered across the state as we head through the afternoon. Excessive rain, flash flooding risk definitely possible at least through tomorrow morning. Thing out to the Air and Water Show, or really wherever you're going and want to know what's going on, we've got the chance for storms. But the good news is no delays right now ongoing across the entire U.S. We've got green everywhere now. We could have some weather impacts at certain airports throughout the day today. St. Louis up into Chicago, Cleveland, and D.C. included in that, as well as along the Gulf Coast where we're expecting quite a bit of rain and storm activity. So possibility of some delays in the sky from the weather, but also your travel forecast across the Sunshine State. We'll put quotes around that because you're going to have abundant rain all up and down the I-75 corridor, and that could lead to some ponding on some of those roads because we've had abundant rain. The ground is saturated already. We also have the risk for severe storms. I-29 going to be a bit of a rough ride today. The thunderstorms ongoing, but the storms are going to refire tonight. Some of those storms are going to be very strong with damaging winds and large hail. So on the air or in the road, we could be dealing with some delays. Looking for tomorrow, we do see those delays get a little bit worse across portions of the Gulf Coast and the Great Lakes region. Kelly?
Speaking of travel, at almost 40 past the hour, time to talk more about travel, but let's talk road travel across the southeast. It's been a bit of a soggy morning thus far this morning. We're going to have some wet roads along that 95 corridor and really from the Carolinas all the way down into portions of central Florida. Mostly we'll see clearing conditions as we head into the afternoon, but you can see anything but clear this morning for places like Savannah and Charleston, where you're mostly dealing with showers, but certainly some pockets of heavy rain embedded in there. Also, we're dealing with some of that rain moving through that I-85 corridor right now. 95 is just going to be an absolute soaked ride, really through South Carolina down through Georgia as well. Taking it south into Florida now, the Treasure Coast, good Monday morning. You're waking up to a ton of rain that's been hanging out for a while right over that Lake Okeechobee area, Fort Myers. You're dealing with the rain as well. You can tell as we head through the morning, we'll start to see this clearing out. For the most part, Atlanta, you're pretty much done with your rain, and that is good news. Jacksonville, you'll have a little rain around this afternoon, so the roads could be wet for your afternoon commute in Jacksonville. Steph, Kelly?
And it's a totally different story. In fact, we'll go to the opposite end of the spectrum. So, we're past midway through January, and you can see it here, the two little T's here, only traces. So 0 measurable snow so far for Denver. So this is actually on track for quite possibly the least snowiest January on record. You can see some of the records here dating back to 1934, since all you saw was a trace in Denver. Now, this little disturbance that we have going on here, moving through Grand Junction, bringing some snow along that I-70 corridor, does not look like it's really going to do a whole lot for Denver. In fact, you're not going to see much out of this at all. So we really do expect this to quite possibly be the least snowiest January in Denver that you've seen. Look, it's kind of just going around you. It's almost like you're in the snow repellent zone at this point for January in Denver. Look at your forecast. Now, I'm not going to say this is a bad forecast. This is a pretty good looking forecast. But if you love snow, you're like, where is it? It's certainly not in Denver, Kelly. And that cold rain definitely could be the worst. Now, you mentioned that some of this energy also impacted the weather in Southern California. And of course, that is what is on everyone's minds this morning as investigators at the National. One resident in Calabasas says he heard the helicopter sputtering before the crash, indicative of a mechanical problem. Radar data lends support to that. It shows the helicopter descended at a rate of 4,000 feet in 1 minute.
Kelly, it's a completely different story. We're taking on the opposite end of the spectrum. So we're looking at January so far. You've got a couple little trace amounts, no measurable snowfall in Denver, though. And that means we are on track to have the least snowiest January on record in Denver since dating back to 1934. Here's why. It's because we don't have any snow coming up in the forecast either. And you're like, well, what's going on, Grand Junction? It's snowing. This is going to move to the east, right? Well, take a look at what's going to happen as we look at the future cast for Denver. Putting this into motion for you, we do not have any snow out of that system in the forecast. So, yeah. Well, okay, we've got rain, snow shower, but it's not going to be any measurable snow. You might see a little flake flying here or there, but it's not going to add up. So probably still on par for the least snowiest forecast in Denver. The forecast on Tuesday looks nice, though. Upper 40s, plenty of sunshine. And then you can see we're in the mid 50s by Friday. If you're there in Denver because you love the snow, though, you're probably like, what is going on? Where is it? This is what we're expecting from this quick shot of snow. And you can see Denver, you are the outlier here, where a lot of the region will see a couple inches of snow out of this. Kelly? I am a big proponent of Mardi Gras, safe Mardi Gras.
Of course, absolutely.
But I was like, what? It's already Mardi Gras time?
Yes.
How did that happen?
Yes, indeed. It has come in. It is with us. All right, well, let's talk about some of these showers, which are around right now from essentially central portions of Louisiana up into portions of the mid-Atlantic. Now, all this rain is pretty light rain shower activity. ATL, you're seeing that here this early part of the day, but it's going to continue to sag towards the south and the east and really fizzles out as it does that.
Yeah, a lot like what we saw yesterday. You kind of have that front that loses its steam, ends up fizzling out. But you know where we're going with this.
Yep.
But wait, there's more. You can watch this next plume of moisture that's going to continue to fill in as we move through the weekend here. And at times, some heavy rain across the areas that have already seen that moisture over the past few days.
And there could be a few zones. We'll have to keep an eye on maybe some light freezing rain issues for some time into Texas. And then you can see there into Arkansas, just north of Little Rock. And that moves on through as we move into Sunday morning. Then throughout the day on Sunday, the rest of the southeast, you'll be looking for some of those showers to move on through. So, yeah, we may get a dry day today in some areas, at least the afternoon, but then we bring back more rain for at least that second half of the weekend.
Yeah, it's one of those weekends where if you have outdoor things that you want to do, you're going to have to plan around the weather. You're going to have to plan accordingly. Here's what we're looking at, generally about up to an inch. Again, we say this all the time. That does not sound like a lot, but for those flood-prone places that are already looking at very saturated ground, this could certainly cause some issues before all is said and done this weekend.
All right, ATL. Weekend time. How about your Saturday? That's going to be the day to get out and enjoy because Sunday it's going to be a little bit cooler and we've got some rain that'll be in the forecast. So it's a kind of 50-50 weekend here for us in the ATL.
Yeah, you're definitely going to notice a difference in those temperatures as well. Houston, you'll notice, look at this, just a cold rain kind of sticking around. I guess 60 is not necessarily a cold rain.
For the folks there.
Depends on who you are. Houston, yeah, you probably think that's a cold rain. I also do. So, but you are going to have that rain sticking around regardless. So just going to have to kind of plan the weekend accordingly. Although I will say it looks like you'll have much more rain in the forecast than sunshine.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get you out precipitation types.
It's definitely just right above a cold rain. I mean, I guess it technically is kind of a cold rain.
It is.
Technically.
On your skin, it's going to be cold rain.
Yeah. Exactly. But I'm talking about that rain that's like 36. It's not exactly freezing rain. Some of us are seeing something pretty close to that this morning. So,
have fun.
Not that much fun. But let's talk about it because some of us that have already seen quite a bit of rain are adding even more to that. And of course, as we know, too much of a good thing, which rain is a good thing, can become problematic. Right now, we've got the rain coming down in Atlanta, sitting at 59 degrees. Jackson, you're done with the rain, but you're sitting at 38. Houston, you are not done with the rain, and you're sitting at 38. That's that cold rain that I'm talking about here. Atlanta, you're nearly an inch above average for rainfall so far this month. So we're just adding to that surplus, although the rain will be coming to an end here shortly. Now, as we head through your evening, that plume of moisture spreading up through Arkansas, across the Mississippi River Valley. Again, places like Nashville, Memphis, Chattanooga, you guys are going to get in on some of this rain as we head into your Sunday morning. Asheville down through Jackson, New Orleans, some of that rain hanging out to start your Sunday morning. By Sunday afternoon, it's clearing out for many of these areas and moving farther eastward to cities like Columbia and Savannah. So this is going to be one of those weekends where it's not going to be a complete washout, but you're certainly going to have to plan around the weather to get your weekend in. We've got about up to an inch, which reflects all of this
this nice plume of moisture and cold. It's got to go somewhere before it exits finally, and it's going to go to the northeast. Everyone takes a collective sigh together as much of the northeast, or at least especially coastal places like, say, Boston, are well above average in terms of where you should be for snowfall so far this season. You're sitting at about a little more than 7 inches, nearly 8 inches above average in terms of snowfall. You guys have just kind of had one right after another. Now, this previous system, you just got kind of rain out of it. We had really warm temperatures. That's all going to be changing. Today, highs only in the lower 30s, and then we've got that snow falling as we head toward the end of the week. When you look at the map and you see all these colors splattered up across the northeast, you know something's coming. The National Weather Service issues these alerts for a reason, and that reason is because for ice, the ice storm warning, for the winter storm warnings, it's dangerous conditions for you to be out and about. You have to know what's coming your way. Of course, that's what those alerts are there for, and that's what we're here for with you this morning. Winter Storm Oakley going to fill in as we head through really later this evening. You get a first initial push of moisture, but we really see things ramping up overnight tonight. Here's midnight, Binghamton back to Buffalo. You guys are stuck in that snow. Boston, you're getting into it as we head to your early Friday morning. Burlington as well. Your Friday morning is going to be in the snow. Now, of course, that could be heavy at times where we've got that winter storm warning in place. Definitely looking at that possibility for blowing snow, some tricky road conditions, but almost as quickly as it moved in, it moves out. Not before, though, dropping some significant amounts of snowfall. Look at this. The current forecast is for 1 foot to 1.5 feet across portions of New England. Anywhere that you see the purple here is at least 5 inches. As you get into the darker purple, we're talking 8 to 12, 12 to 18. But you'll notice there's a sharp gradient here from where we see quite a bit of snow to not that much snow. And this is where the ice comes in. So where you have that atmospheric column that's not completely below freezing, you're going to have that freezing rain coming down. And here's something we're significantly considering, a significant ice amount here, between 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch for places like State College and Harrisburg. And Alex, as we've talked about, that is not good at all. That could really have some big impacts for your Friday.
Yeah.
And you would have to hear about it for the next 4 hours.
And beyond, because, that's the story. That's the story. And you don't want to have to tell that story, right?
No.
Because the best bet is to just stay off some of these roads.
Right. But the good news is didn't run into anyone, but that's because it was kind of looked like a private-ish street. The roads out there this morning, some of those main roads, you could do the same. And you just don't need to be out.
No, absolutely. And it's going to get worse for some of us as we work our way through the day, unfortunately, out there. All right, so let's take a look.
Already seen some issues on the roads this morning. Of course, flights delayed and canceled. So travel is treacherous. But when you start to see maybe that power outage issues that we could see, that's a whole other layer.
Yeah,
so lots of different impacts from this. And of course, it's not just the ice. In some places, we're going to get some snow that's going to be impacting you. So let's talk about it. Here's St. Louis. You can see that you're going to see the snow filling in as we move through the rest of your Thursday. Now, I will say, for the most part, the forecast for St. Louis is for the snow, but freezing rain is not out of the question as we're rounding around your lunch hour, so the roads could be very slick there in the St. Louis area by your lunchtime, but watch what happens. We see that kind of fill farther southward, which has been the forecast for a while, and this changes over to all snow as we move through your afternoon into your evening. Those temperatures will be cold enough for it to stick before it finally begins to exit by the time we head toward Friday morning. Now, with that, the roads are going to be slick in some places Friday morning because the temperatures are going to be nice and cold. Now, you'll notice in terms of measurable snow, this is mainly displaced off to the north. Places like Jerseyville and Troy is where we have a better chance of seeing some measurable snow, and that's just because St. Louis, you're going to have a little while stuck in that mix of different types of winter precip. This is what we're expecting as you look toward Little Rock. This is mainly a freezing rain event for you. By the middle part of the afternoon, we do start to see the model trying to scour out that cold air, but I do think it doesn't look like a whole lot is going on, but it's that light drizzle and that freezing on contact that's really making the big difference.
Yeah, really going to be tough times, and only going to get worse from here. That's half the issue here is the fact that we're going to be dealing with this throughout the day. So conditions as tough as they are now, only going to get worse out there for us. All right, let's talk about what we've got, because we do have some chilly numbers here in the wake of all of this. get ready for some cold once we get rid of all this wintry weather. So it's just a nasty next couple of days for a lot of us. We also have some rain that we're dealing with as well. You can see that stretching its way across Tennessee, parts of Kentucky, getting into Virginia. The Virginias at that. It was a wet one in Nashville.
Yeah.
More wet weather this morning.
Yeah, and it's not just light rain either. As you can see here, we've got heavy rain that's moving through some of these mountain roads. Those mountain roads are twisty and turny and kind of treacherous regardless, but add in some very heavy rain, some reduced visibility, and it becomes even more problematic. That's what we've got this morning.
Yeah, we got a wet one for us there around Roanoke here this morning, and a lot of areas here where we see some of that rain that's ongoing right now, where we actually have flood watches that are in place because, again, we've been wet, saturated grounds. We're ushering additional rainfall, and that could no doubt lead to some flood problems in this zone.
Especially in these mountainous areas where you have rain that's sticking around for so long. It has to go from somewhere, right? And it goes from the higher elevations to the lower elevations. So especially those flood-prone places, say that 5 times fast, you see that rain adding up, and it leads to those flood issues that we're expecting.
And speaking of adding up now, we look at the totals that we are expecting here through tomorrow, and you look at this, in most areas we'll be looking at less than an inch of rainfall, but some pockets of 1 to 2, which may not necessarily sound like a ton, but again, this is on top of what we have already dealt with, so that becomes, again, a bit problematic. So your forecast, Lexington, keeping it on the showery side here for us for this afternoon and into tonight. A drier time on our Friday, although don't expect to see too much sunshine.
Yeah, I will say with that temperature hovering right that close to freezing and that rain coming down, those bridges and overpasses in Lexington tonight into Friday morning could be a little slick, so do be careful. Nashville, same thing for you. You can see the current forecast takes that temperature down to 33 overnight tonight into Friday morning. That's awfully close to freezing, especially for bridges and overpasses, so do be careful. It's staying chilly. Yeah, this is not a warm rain by any means.
No, not at all, but at least there is some light. Friday, drying out.
Yeah, so we're going to be dealing with Landon. You know, we've talked a lot about the northern tier over the past few weeks, and of course, even to have seen some snow in some of the southern cities. But this is really going to be one that impacts places from the Front Range all the way through Texas, North Texas, Dallas, getting in on this. Kansas City, of course, you guys are getting that snow. OKC, you guys are expecting a significant amount of snow from this. The snow is problematic in the south for places like Dallas. Dallas, you typically only see about 1.5 inches of snow for the entire winter season. It's the ice that I'm worried about for these locations, though, especially where you're looking up here and you're seeing that darker maroon for portions of Arkansas, up into Tennessee, portions of Kentucky. Over 3/4 of an inch of ice is debilitating ice. It gets on those trees, it brings down power lines, it messes with the infrastructure. So that's a problem that we're worried about with this particular storm. Now, the ice forecast confidence, what does that even mean? What is the likelihood? How confident are we that you're going to see at least 1/10 of an inch of ice in a place like Dallas or Waco along that 35 corridor, Little Rock, Memphis? I'm talking to you guys. That dark maroon that you see, that is high confidence that you'll see at least 1/10 of an inch of ice, and that is problematic in its own right. Now, 1/4 of an inch of ice or more, you see that area get smaller because, of course, not as many people are going to see that much ice, but where we have high confidence in that is up around that I-55 corridor north of Memphis. Medium confidence for cities like Little Rock stretching down over the Red River. This is what it looks like currently. We've got snow falling in Wichita, but you can see where we have that kind of wintry mix and that freezing rain already ongoing, and that is what's going to bring us those ice accumulations for portions of the Midwest down into the southern plains, and you can see it's going to be messy throughout the day today. Now, Landon's going to be the biggest snowstorm some Midwestern cities have seen in years, and that does include idea. I know some of us can't avoid it. You got to go into work sometimes. Sometimes our jobs are on the road. So, you know, shout out to those people who have to be on the road. And if you don't have to be, maybe stay home to make it easier for everyone who does. Let's all work together. Now, I'd say we could work together as much as we want, but some of these flights are just already delayed. There's nothing you can do about it but stay home and then hope to get out on another day. We've already got almost 300 flights canceled out of Chicago O'Hare, out of STL, out of St. Louis as well. The numbers climbing in Detroit to 164. And this is what we're expecting. We are expecting weather impacts from Salt Lake City through Dallas-Fort Worth area. New Orleans, you could even have some other weather impacts today. Cleveland,
same thing for you. So there are going to be a lot of delayed and a lot of canceled flights. And we know that acts as dominoes, because when the flight is, say, canceled or delayed in Cincinnati, maybe it's going to another place. The next flight is delayed. So just keep an eye on your flights if you're traveling today. The forecast for I-70, rain to snow. I-70 corridor going to be messy in some places. I-40 also going to be messy as well. Tonight we start to see that spreading southward, places like Dallas, treacherous travel. Waco, same thing, that 35 corridor, not going to be any fun when you're dealing with icy conditions. So let's just talk about it here. Your average braking distance at 50 miles an hour when you've got ice is 1,000 feet plus. That's basically like not even stopping at all. So if you can avoid being out where we're getting that ice, in the places where you're getting some of that warmer weather. Thanks so much, Jim. Nashville, though, get ready for it. You're starting out as rain today. Temperatures falling into the mid-40s tonight and then not climbing very much on Thursday. It's Thursday night into Friday when you've got some icy conditions that you could expect there in Nashville for your Friday morning commute. Rain across the southeast. We're going to have more on this and much more. Into America's Morning Headquarters. Thanks for hanging out with us. I'm meteorologist Felicia alongside meteorologist Jordan Steele. Right now, nearly 72 million people are under a winter storm warning. That's right, and over 5 million under an ice storm warning, courtesy of Winter Storm Landon. So we've got no time to waste. Let's get straight into what you can expect, because a lot of us are in the thick of it right now. Some of us will be in the thick of it by tonight into tomorrow. We've got winter weather stretching from the Great Lakes all the way down into the southern plains, and included in that winter weather, we've got freezing rain, we've got wintry mix, and we've got some really heavy snow coming down in places. You can see our disturbance that we have making its way slowly south and east. This is going to continue filling in across the country. For this morning, though, from Chicago down through Wichita, you guys are in that heavy snow. St. Louis, you've kind of been on the edge of all the different mixes that we've got going on. It has been a snowy morning in Chicago. Temperatures in the 20s. Peoria, you're sitting at 18. Springfield, 21 for you. And you can see that snow is coming down very heavy at times. There's going to be some incredibly visibility reducing snow out there. Missouri, you're getting a little taste of it all. How about that? We've got rain for the southeastern corner of Missouri, a little bit of freezing rain there south of that I-44 corridor. Along I-44, places like Springfield, Rolla, you guys are getting some of that wintry mix. And then north of that, up toward Kansas City, we've got the snow. How about St. Louis? Right now, you guys are in the thick of the snow. Wintry mix as you head down 44 towards Sullivan. And that means we are going to have some trouble on the roadways across portions of Missouri, heading a little bit farther south and west. OKC dry now, but you've got more snow on the way. Jordan, it's just going to be a messy. So it is certainly a mess, and rounds of severe storms are marching across the south. Tornadic storms pushing through the southern part of the Lone Star State Saturday. Now, this is in Liberty, Texas, just 45 minutes west of Beaumont. Last night's storms causing flash flooding in the area and reports of minor damage. Definitely not what you want to be dealing with through the middle of the night. We knew there was going to be some severe weather, and it kind of all really panned out that way. You had damaging winds, you had tornadoes being spotted, and right now we're not done with that risk for some severe weather throughout the day today either. You've got a band of lightning just absolutely marching through Louisiana, across the Mississippi River there into portions of Mississippi. Jackson, good morning, Jackson. I hope you weren't planning on sleeping in too late this morning, because you're getting rocked by Mother Nature's alarm clock at this point. You can see here, I think maybe some of our sensors are off, because I highly doubt that the sun is shining in Greenville, but 65 does seem pretty accurate. New Orleans, you might have a little sun poking through the clouds, sitting at 69, but look at this temperature in Mobile right now, 64 degrees, kicking off your morning. That's warmer than you would typically be this time of year for your afternoon highs. Now, this is why we're expecting severe weather to continue to pop off as we head through your afternoon. We've got plenty of instability in the atmosphere, a lot of energy for these storms to work with as they continue moving eastward. You can see the general trajectory kind of south to north and then lining up ahead of that frontal boundary as it's pushing through. All of those things coming together, the moisture that's lifting off the Gulf of Mexico, the warmth that we've got in place, and the cold front moving through, guys, it's going to be a problematic Sunday. We've got that risk for severe storms. Everywhere shaded in red has that risk, but especially the darker red, places like Hattiesburg through Montgomery, you're included in that. Baton Rouge, also maybe some severe storms for you. Damaging wind gusts, hail, and we cannot rule out an isolated tornado. You'll notice that we have torcons today of 2 to 3. Now, that is on the scale of 10, so that is an isolated tornado chance, but even 1 is one too many.
that you don't want to deal with in, say, Hattiesburg or Jackson. So do be weather aware today. Make sure you have some way to get those weather alerts. So let's take a look at what happens as we move through your Sunday. You'll notice we've got storms that are blasting through kind of as that frontal boundary pushes eastward. Some of those storms are going to be packing a punch, especially as we head through the afternoon and the evening. Mobile, Pensacola, Tallahassee, eventually it's making it to you. So definitely one of those Sundays, Dr. Postel, where if you need to stay in, maybe do some deep cleaning of the house, it's probably a good idea across the south and across the northeast.
That's a good idea.
Because then it's cold outside, you're stuck at home because all the roads are icy, and now you don't have any electricity. But the best thing you can do to avoid problems with that is to just make sure that you're prepared for some power outages in this area. So I hope you're already prepared, because if you are somewhere where it's freezing, raining, yeah, it is for good reason. Now, I don't think I'd be too cheery about being outside in that kind of weather. We both know that. You and I agree on that.
Right.
But 2 days ago when she took this video, the high was -1. So definitely significantly colder. I'm going to pass on those temperatures. But I say yes to these videos because it's so much fun. It does show just, you know, you got to make the best of it if the high is -1 degree. So we just have to have the creator join us, of course.
All right, Janet Stewart joins us now. And Janet, it's going to be about what?
It's causing severe weather, rounds of severe storms marching across the south. In fact, tornadic storms pushing through the southern part of the Lone Star State yesterday. And this is Liberty, Texas. It's just 45 minutes west of Beaumont. Last night's storm causing flash flooding in portions of the area, and we've gotten reports of minor damage as well. You can see the lightning coming along with those storms. Tons of reports, actually, of quite a bit of flooding across portions of Texas yesterday. And here's the thing, guys, we are going to continue with these chance for storms, and some of those are going to be severe. So are you getting a little bit of a warm up, which you might be enjoying across the south? Yes, you are, but that's coming at a price, and the price is this stormy weather that we're seeing here. So you can see some of the heavy rain stretching down from Nashville through Memphis. Tupelo, you guys have got some of that lighter rain now, but that's going to fill in. Jackson, it's already been a soggy morning for you. Not just soggy, but we've got some thunderstorms within the mix as well. All of this associated with a southerly component to the winds, bringing warmth and moisture out of the Gulf of Mexico, but also with a frontal system that's moving through. Look at these temperatures. This is crazy. These are temperatures that are well above where you should be for your afternoon highs, and we're getting them this early in the morning. 73 in Alexandria, 65 in Jackson. New Orleans, are you feeling a little muggy this morning? You probably are, because you've got your temperature in the lower 70s and the dew point's not very far from that. All of that's coming together to build our instability that we're seeing. That's what this is representative of, the available energy that these storms have to work with, and they have quite a bit. And that's going to result in that possibility for severe weather for places like Hattiesburg and Jackson, over into Montgomery as we move through the day today. Damaging wind gusts are our main threat, as with yesterday. Some hail possible, but also, again, as with yesterday, isolated tornadoes can't be ruled out, and that's why we have torcons today. Torcons of 2 to 3 on a scale of 10. So it's not the higher level of it, but it is still a chance, and even one tornado affecting you is too much. It's enough to make your day bad. So make sure you have some way to get those alerts and you know what's going on weather-wise. Watch how all of this fills in as we move through your afternoon. Birmingham, Montgomery, Columbus eventually getting rocked by this. Here's this evening in Dothan. You guys are going to see those storms blasting toward you. Pensacola blasting through as we head through the overnight hours. And then you'll notice a bit of a cool down behind this system. But Dr. Postel, this is just one of those systems that's affecting us from the north to south, and it eventually is going to affect us. Terrifying video there. And when natural disasters strike, often the first ones on the scene are members of law enforcement. As first responders, they see it all. Hurricanes, tornadoes, wildfires, and flooding. Now, it is National Law Enforcement Day, and we wanted to see how they train for all these scenarios.
Yeah, joining us now is Kansas State Trooper Ben Gardner. And Trooper Ben, thank you so much for joining us today. And the first question I'm going to ask you is, in the heartland, and I've lived in Kansas before for a long time, you see it all.
Hey.
Right. What is the most common natural disasters that you come across?
You know, there's a lot of things here in the Midwest and Kansas that we see. If it's flooding,
Factor in that wind, and it's even worse,
Right.
Dr. Postel. Thanks so much. Well, of course, as we've been talking about, you got to be careful on those roads where we've got the ice and the snow. Meteorologist Stephanie Abrams breaks down the common driving dangers.